U.S. Generation 6 fighters will go to war with China or Russia. The war in Ukraine has become a powerful catalyst in international relations. The world's rapidly becoming polarized, and even the average citizens can already see the emergence of two poles of power. The United States and its allies on the one hand, China, Russia, and their allies on the other. Both sides already openly call each other their main adversaries. Everyone understands that the fight between those is practically inevitable. More precisely, it's already begun. That is, with the war in Ukraine. But future events are yet to come, and if so, it's necessary to prepare for them properly. The U.S. program Next Generation Air Dominance, abbreviated NGAD, to create the 6th generation fighter is one of these steps. On August 23, 2022, that is exactly 6 months after the start of the Russian aggression, the American edition of 1945 published an article called NGAD, the Next Generation Air Dominance Fighter, will be built to fight Russia or China. In this video, we'll take a look at how U.S. generals see the 6th generation fighter jet, which is designed to ensure continued U.S. air dominance. After all, the battle is going to be very difficult, and God forbid it really is too. After all, it could be both, war with Russia and China. The NGAD program began in 2015. On September 14, 2020, the Pentagon announced the successful testing of a full-scale flight demonstrator of the 6th generation fighter. Then there was another lull. And then on August 23, 2022, 1945 reported the U.S. Air Force is throwing its might behind a planned 6th generation fighter. The Air Force believes the future 6th generation Next Generation Air Dominance fighter is so important that it will require a whole-of-government approach to getting a combat aircraft into the hands of airmen before the end of the decade. That is, not in the mid-30s as previously planned, but as early as 2030. Can you sense how international communications are already electrified and the black cloud of inevitable war is growing before your eyes, obscuring the future of humanity? Almost at the same time as the publication of this article, to be exact on August 19, 2022, it became known that the U.S. Air Force awarded 5 leading American aerospace companies framework contracts worth $975 million each for the development on a competitive basis of advanced engines under the Next Generation Adaptive Propulsion Program, abbreviated NGAP, for the Next Generation Advanced American Fighter Aircraft, GAD. The contracts were awarded to General Electric, Pratt & Whitney in partnership with Raytheon Technologies, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman. Characteristically, 3 of the 5 companies awarded contracts, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman, are not engine manufacturers and apparently will have to provide their NGAP engine platform options under the NGAD program. Developing such a broad front of engines for the Next Generation NGAD fighter is clearly intended to speed things up. And just recently, the U.S. Air Force has announced plans for the number of its future fleet of next-generation air dominance aircraft, as well as the latest high-autonomy drones, guided UAVs purchased under the Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program. Frank Kendall, Secretary of the U.S. Armed Forces, told details about the plans for aircraft and UAVs. According to him, the U.S. Air Force plans to have 200 NGAD aircraft, as well as 1,000 drones, 2 UAVs for each NGAD aircraft, that's 400 units, and 2 drones for each of the 305th generation fighters F-35, that is 600 units. That's a total of 1,000 drones. 200 NGADs roughly correspond to the number of F-22s. There are 181 of them in service now. This confirms the Pentagon's plans to retire its Predators from service in the 30s. Frank Kendall also voiced the estimated cost of the 6th generation aircraft, several $100 million. Truth assured that it'll be an incredibly effective aircraft. The fighter will operate alongside less expensive unmanned platforms that will expand its capabilities. The Air Force plans that wing drones will cost half as much as manned aircraft. True, this means that the drones will be more expensive than the 5th generation F-35 Lightning II fighters. We hope that such a price is justified, and these drones will significantly expand the capabilities of aircraft, both as strike tools, allowing them to strike in the enemy's air defense zone, and other functions, for example, reconnaissance or for communications. In addition to drone, Generation 6 aircraft will acquire laser weapons. The U.S. has several programs to develop laser weapons, on which such well-known companies as Boeing, Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman Corporation are working. But by the beginning of the 30s, and even more so by the end of this decade, one should definitely not expect pictures from Star Wars where laser beams destroy enemy aircraft. So most likely, lasers will be used, at least initially, to deflect missile attacks, blinding their homing heads or disabling the optic systems on board the enemy aircraft. But supersonic or maybe hypersonic missiles will be used to defeat aircraft. Taking into account the great cost of the plane, it'll be universal, i.e. intended to destroy both air and ground targets. This is why it'll be able to carry not only air-to-air missiles, but also surface-to-air missiles and guided gliding bombs. And what will be absolutely certain is the Infrared Search and Tracking System, abbreviated as IRST, which is now planned to be put on the F-35 during its upgrades. IRST sensors are good for detecting and tracking stealthy air threats. They're immune to electronic warfare systems and work passively, so the target will not be warned that it's detected. In addition, as soon as a stealth fighter begins to illuminate the target with its radar, it immediately becomes highly visible to the enemy. So why all this stealth technology then? By the way, there are reports that the NGAD will be the last stealth aircraft in the United States due to the obsolescence of the technology. Brent Eastwood, a columnist for 1945, writes about this. It's noted that the means of air defense are becoming more sophisticated, and modern radar can detect stealth aircraft. According to the author, stealth technology may become obsolete by the 2040s. Frankly, it's already highly doubtful that modern stealth aircraft will be effective against modern air defense systems.